Hello and welcome back to the Age of Bison YouTube channel where we have another casted game in our 1v1 tournament here where we have Moses playing Malta on one side and Danny 2023, pretty new to the server here, going up with Germany, and we are on Fertile Crescent. Today I'm joined by my usual co-host Platypus Slayer. Hello friend, and you want to go ahead and give us your 2 cents on this matchup? I know you play these two civs semi-frequently, pretty frequently. You were famous for your Malta play in the last 1v1 tournament we had on the ladder. And why don't you lend your thoughts on Fertile Crescent before we get started here?
Oh, 2 cents in this economy, with inflation, maybe it should be 5 cents or a nickel, right? Nickel for your thoughts?
Give me a nickel.
Exactly. So, well, first off, I'm seeing a 10-10 from Malta. That's a little bit different. Typically in these type, oh, there we go. And the house is up. So between these two civs, you have two civs that are quite different in design, right? Malta is a very defensive, boomy civ. It tends to want to play greedy, aka eco-focused in the early game. It wants to open up typically with either a market or a trade line, which we don't see either from Moses. But the idea basically is it wants to get up, lock the map down, and then use its superior army and eco to grind the opponent down. Germany is the total opposite. It's a tempo civ. It's famous for its H3 power spike. Ooh. And apparently stealing food, stealing misplaced baskets of mangoes, another German talent. Anyways, Germany tends to go up early. It tends to have a very powerful economy in the short term, with the trade-off being it tends to fall off later on in the game. It has the incredible Yuan shipments. So this is going to be probably a very intense battle that's going to be coming down to, can Germany push Malta over in time, or can Malta survive kind of the initial power spikes that Germany can do?
Right, right. Well, let's catch up on the action here. So what we were seeing was, we're seeing a pretty standard 15 vil. I think 16 vil age up now on Germany's side. He did a market start here. No trade posts, and immediately got the hunting dogs. Going to give him a nice buff. These settler wagons are going to be going crazy. I do love how their animation shows whatever corresponding resource they're gathering. I think that's a nice touch.
I agree.
And then on Moses' side, we had also another market house start. He also did get hunting dogs just a little bit later on. He sent 3 Vils, and then Germany ended up sending in their very powerful 2 settler wagons. Just taking a look at the decks here. Pretty standard stuff. You would think that maybe some of the new Merc cards would come in perhaps here, but...
Well, you have Brigadiers.
You do have Briggs in H2, so we'll see. No Silversmith present, but we do have some H3 eco cards there. So we're going to expect probably pretty standard Fast Fortress from Germany or some variety thereof. But kind of hard to raid Malta. We'll see how it goes. And then on Moses' side with Malta, we do have German tongue, so that's going to be pretty greedy, economic, age up. No. Oh, he does have British tongue, actually. So I don't know how well that will do against him into Germany, considering the Ulan shipments, but, stranger things have happened. Now, this is going to be interesting here. I have been saying for a long time that the firethrower on Malta's side are very good. Very underrated unit. And I think these, even though they're kind of a skirm unit, light infantry unit, they with these firethrower, they can be very deadly to cav in close range. And just other than that, pretty standard, except adding insult to injury with rockets here. So we're going to see how this shakes out. But also, do you take Portuguese tongue in your decks? This is kind of interesting, too.
Well, if you look in the deck, he doesn't really have a lot of the archaic infantry upgrades that tend to be very typical. This is going to be an interesting deck. So he can do a few things with this. He can pivot into the order units, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can pivot into the tongue units, right? The longbow and the Cassador in this case. And he can also use the fire throwers with all their upgrades. The question will be, I think, for Moses is, can his eco get to the point where it can support it?
All right, so H2 coming in now for Germany and Malta. So going quartermaster on one end, and he went governor on this one. So pretty good. Outposts are not necessarily, considering that they're stationary targets, it will help maybe with the raids just a little bit. He is building it close. German tongue now coming in, focusing on that macro. We also saw Danny taking a trade post here on the left. With Fertile Crescent, I'm thinking, just really big map. So it's kind of hard, at least on a rating perspective. You have a lot of angles of approach here on the left and the right sides, right? because of how large the map is, you know, you are having to really exert a lot of map control in a far distance, build a lot of infrastructure. But the approach is it's a big map. It's a really big map, and it really I find this map to be quite difficult.
Well, and as someone who loves to commit war crimes myself on the civilian population, this is actually an excellent raiding map, largely because of look where the hunts are. They're so far away from your initial base that the opponent can only turtle for so long before they have to poke their head out. So,
Right.
again, with Malta's ability to lock down the map with Wignacourt and Outposts, they should be able to get a very potent eco pretty fast. Now it looks like those towers are going to start doing some work.
Yeah. All right. So German tongue now coming in. He's probably okay. He's gonna go ahead and get good body blocking raid here. He may get one. Yep, one Vil going down, but losing an Ulan. He does get 4 Sentinel pop off, so that is gonna slow some things down. He did get some Vils in the TC here, and now he's sending in Wind Court. So, like you said, a little bit of a slower tempo to start off with, but immediately sending in that very, very powerful economic boost. And then hopefully going to go ahead and try to pivot as much as he can. And with the commandery and the outpost, it's going to be very difficult for Danny to push in. Still going in with the market upgrades, and then now having gathered, we saw him pretty heavy on the coin earlier there. Now the 700 coin is now coming in, and he has enough food for the age up. So I'm imagining that it's just the 2 Ulan and then just Fortress going right into it. So it's a
Correct. This is looking a little bit of a faster age up time than you would normally expect from Germany. Normally, the standard German build, right, is the semi FF, 3 wagons, 700 wood, 700 coin, right?
right.
The idea being that you put infrastructure down, maybe you take a second TP. Germany sees how hard Moses is turtling, and it's basically saying, you know what, I don't even need a military building. I'm just going to raid, poke around. I'm going to leave you alone, and I'm going to try to get up in age ASAP so I can use tempo. Now, on Moses' side, Wignacourt is in, but he's just now researching his some more settler wagons. That is a mistake I see lots of people make, and it is kind of tricky to macro for. Yeah, making sure using your commanders almost as if a second TC can give Malta that like monstrous boom. So uh, we'll see what Germany does, but I would definitely say at this moment the German tempo is very strong, and Malta's gonna have to figure out a way to survive the next couple minutes.
Absolutely. Exile Prince now coming and giving a fast age up. Malta's side, he does have, I want to see how many settler wagons, 3 here. So pretty competitive here. So 21 Vil showing, but technically it is, what would that be? 2, 4, 6. So 27, I think. And then for Danny, sporting 20, but with how many settler wagons he has, this is much stronger than it's letting on. And that H3 almost coming in, and once again another raid coming in after that 700 coin. He was able to throw in some 2 Ulan, but they didn't get much done. With the Sentinel sitting in the back, and then now it seems like we're now getting a 700 coin on Moses' side, but he's still gathering coins, so I'm wondering what his plan is here. But I guess he's probably going to just macro for lots of coin going into H3, is what I would imagine.
I would hope so. Once you see your opponents in age 3, Falconets are coming out most likely, and Falconets are a huge problem for Malta. They can spawn the big boy, and the big boy can buy you a lot of time. But again, this map there's not a lot of hunts near your base, so you're gonna have to push out. You're gonna have to take map control.
Well, what leaves me curious too is that Germany's gonna obviously make skirms, like that's their thing, skirm Jaeger, like that's the core of their army, and he does have sentinels here. Great unit, but not gonna cut it against skirms. So I don't know if he just did that for the Ulan and he's gonna do a switch, or exactly what the compositional plan is for his army, but we'll have to wait and find out. And then there it is, the H3 now coming in with the Bishop, which will give him a TC wagon, which is going to help him exert that influence probably on the other sides of the map.
Correct.
A little bit of an inactive. I want to see what they can see. I don't know if I agree with this shipment. 8 skirms. I don't know. I mean, I guess you know that he has sentinels, but I don't know. I guess I would rather like maybe the 1,000 wood, just to kind of go for the boom. But I mean, maybe it's a tempo thing, right? Because you don't want to. Maybe he wants to put a little bit more pressure on Malta.
It's tricky. He can absolutely just try to brute force his way in with Skirm and Yulon. But honestly, if you've got 2 towers, I think the best thing you can do is just send 1,000 wood. You can either outboom him, right, which Germany is very possible, or I think the smarter, safer thing to do is get some Falconets out, maybe a Culver 2 to prevent the big boy from stopping your advance, and
Right.
Just finish them off, because all those resources in the buildings are not going to be as effective when they're under cannon fire.
So we do see a TP now going down Moses' part, so he is starting to kind of exhibit that map control. These Sentinels are going to be in. The commander going ahead and going that last shot. Order
Ooh,
Hussar,
that's
love these
hard.
boys coming out. These will definitely beat. They will clean the skirm mass, and they will be able to kill the Ulans, but not necessarily both at the same time. So we're going to have to see some play right here, some good pulling back and forth. H3 is still slowly marching in, and now the crossbow. So now I'm a little... It's very interesting. He's not necessarily macroed for wood gathering. He's got the crossbow, and as you noted, he doesn't necessarily... He does have some archaic combat cards ready to go, but not a lot of them. So I'm very curious as to what is going to be going on here. And like you said, I'm still not seeing that artillery foundry. You're absolutely correct. A fast fortress with artillery is absolutely the weakness for Malta. It easily, not easily, but the slow push really moves them over, because then they're caught on the back foot because they haven't economically scaled yet to the point where they can counter it, but yet they need that infrastructure so badly on those defenses, and that artillery will counter it. So I'm kind of hoping to see that artillery foundry come out, but has not yet, and now he's opting to send the 9 Ulan.
Even wagons against the composition that you saw would be okay, and there you go, right?
Right.
But he's house popped again, which again, that is a classic German struggle, right? Is because of the Ulans that come with your shipments. It's very difficult to stay on top of the house pop. It's one of the reasons that a lot of people use Palatine settlements. It's not optimal, but if you're like a relatively new player, or you just are willing to sacrifice some tempo for it, uh, it remains a popular, even though it's not necessarily an optimal card, just for that specific reason, quality of life.
Right. Now
So
we're seeing the veteran crossbowman upgrade come in and not the veteran sentinel, so I think that's going to give us an indication of exactly what Moses is planning to do here, and I think we had the fixed gun, the big boy, as you call it, absolute terror of dreams. This guy can definitely do a lot of damage, especially to the light infantry mass he has going on that he's trying to march forward, and he does have some Order Hussar here on the side. He's not using them to raid. He's kind of holding them back, so I think he's looking for some sort of flanking opportunity. Fixed gun now going down here. Kind of close. He definitely sees that. He definitely sees that. Order Hussar
that is
trying to get into...
huge Yulon mass, though. So,
Oh, yeah, these orders are
oh
going to
no,
get
but
cleaned with the wagons. But,
oh no, all it takes is one shot.
come on, Bertha. Yeah, just
Boom.
3. And I mean, you would think, okay, that's not a lot. He does do a good job switching up the stance here on the skirms. Ulan trying to get in here, but the Sentinels are still in play. Kind of getting
And
in there.
these Sentinels, I mean, they're not just musks in melee. They're more like halberdiers, honestly.
And the Order
Wow.
are not afraid to get on top of the wagons and absolutely go to work. Colonial Michelin being popped here in 3 at a time. This is going to be a cleanup on Moses' part. He does still have a few Ulan available, but his eco is all the way back here. He's got to kind of spread out. He can't really get after it, and he's fighting under the TC. He's fighting under all
And
of
his
this
cav
defense.
are just moving around. I don't know if that's an attack move bug or just panic bug.
Oh!
Yeah, that's the big boy.
Yeah, and scores are still relatively even, so Moses is able to hold. He does wipe his mass. He doesn't have many units, 8 crossbowmen left over, but he does preserve his eco. I think this is a huge mistake that I make all the time, and I think just generally, like, what happens is that you think, I have to take out their town. And then rather than, as you pointed out, death by 1,000 cuts, why not? Like, try to get your, you can send your mass forward, really pull, but then you can kind of send your cav, some other units poking around, prodding around, trying to weaken and stiffen up your opponent, take that map control, cut them off, instead of fighting under all this defense. Because right here you have 4 defensive buildings. It's tough.
And look, these fixed guns are obnoxious. They even buffed them recently in a patch to have even. Oh, I see. There's the foundry a
Yeah.
little bit late, but to have more range than a culverin, it's their supposed counter. A lot of people are not exactly necessarily happy about that, but look, it's still a very beatable unit. And the trick is, you either run into it with a lot of cav, where it does do less damage. You use the colves, and yes, it's obnoxious that the fixed gun can hit you, but you can use your colves to cost effectively take them out. And then after that, that's a lot of resources for Malta. 700 resources, 7 pop. Maybe not 700. Don't quote me on that, folks. But yeah, it's looking really good. And look at that. Moses' score, he just jumped up. Looks like he deconstructed it to reconstruct it again. Another quirk of the fixed gun.
Right. Really kind of starting to put the pressure forward. Another outpost going down, so Toxic Malta Turtle, we're going to love to see it. Some Firethrower is now coming in. Let's see what kind of upgrades he's going to send in for this card. I'm wondering what he's going to pop next. Oh, veteran fire throwers here. I would imagine he. Yep, absolutely. So now he's going to go for a crossbowman fire thrower composition, which technically means it's a. Are they?
Grenadier Skirm, but it's technically a Skirm unit.
Yeah, it's technically a scrum unit, so I'm a little. So it's going to be interesting, but with those fire throwers, it's going to be a little bit different. Now, taking a look at this side, two coal, like you wanted to see, I would prefer to see a falconet or two thrown in there, like you're saying, with the infantry mass. But two coal to go after the fixed gun. He doesn't know that it's been placed forward. That will help him. Not a lot of a skirm mass here, though. Unfortunately, plenty of veteran war wagons to deal with any of the order hussar that are going to be coming in, but I think he's going to need a little bit more of a frontline mass. Maybe the Doppelsonder would be good into this. I'm not sure. It looks like he's needing the siege because these order hussar, we saw them coming onto the side. I wonder if he sees this. Oh, is this what you're doing? Yes, he's got to right here. Huge raid here.
Raid. And he's also, look at the same time in the center, it looks like he's pushing forward with the fire throwers.
Very smart. So you always want to make sure that your raid and your push is going to be coinciding with each other, and it looks like Danny is sending the whole mass.
Wow, though, what a cleanup. Germany's down to 29 something bills. How much is Malta at right now in villager count? 41, yep.
13
And those fire throwers, they absolutely, again, people don't like the obvious. Well, here's another obvious. And it will absolutely dominate skirm fights because it does siege damage. It gets right around the range resist. It is a very expensive anti-2 pop unit, though. So
I feel like their fire rate is also faster than the Grenadier.
It is, but it's a little bit. It's a goofy animation until they get their rockets.
All right, Ulan now coming in.
Oh, the flamethrower upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, just insane. Look at that. And so the problem is that, like, he left the skirm mass exposed here. He sent the war wagons to go protect and the Ulan, when really he needed to just only send the war wagons there. And now he's contending with this huge mass and he's lost his skirms.
Yep. War wagons are not the fastest unit. They are slow and steady. So, him going back and forth, he's kind of losing the value out of those units. And he's under a lot of pressure. Stuff gets kind of clicked up. If you look at his macro looks a little bit off. I would say at this point, if you're Germany, you need to get a second town center up and try to boom back into this game.
He does have the wood for it. I would imagine that maybe a second town center up here, try to exhibit some map control away from the pressure that you're seeing down here rather than keeping these units here. And as you say it, it is spoken into existence, Platypus. Town center now going on to Danny's side. Taking a look over at Moses' action. Oh boy, the armored pistoliers. Oh man, and another outpost. Marking it forward.
Yep, and not it's a shipment point. It gives his sentinels, and if he had any hospitaliers, gives them each a bonus. So it's not a bad deal, and it gives them line of sight. So I think Moses is doing exactly what Malta wants to do. Just slowly creep up the map, exerting map control and having the superior eco as it goes. And now that it's survived the initial FF, Malta's in a very commanding position. But again, Germany's still got a lot of good shipments, and they got a lot of tempo left. So it's not over.
Armored pistoliers now coming in. Order hussar getting caught out by the war wagon. This is bad, but then immediately pulling them off the quarry mine and losing a lot. Let's see. Ulan now getting on top of the skirm mass, but it doesn't matter because
those pistoliers are going to absolutely too on top of it.
And look at those guys coming in, deflecting all the damage here, and that's it. There's your Ulan mass. It's gone. Done deal. That's a 4K score shift, and then you still have plenty of fire throwers who are now just going to absolutely wipe this skirm mass. Take a look at this. Oh, man, that's so sad to see. I mean, pistoliers are going down, but, I mean, they do their part, and there's the GG now being called on Danny's part. Wow. Wow.
Strong showing, like I said, from Moses. Again, both these players, and a reminder to anyone watching, we're not pros or anything like that, but I think both players more or less played to their civ strengths. You know what I mean? They were doing exactly what they should have been doing for the most part. Moses did exactly what is Malta's game plan, right? Is to kind of slowly creep up, take the first blow. That's always the challenge with Malta, is you're not going to have the initiative. You're going to have to be on the defensive, but as long as you keep creeping forward, those ridiculous cannons plus walls plus Malta's generally, cost-effective infantry should allow you to eventually win the game. And if you're Germany, you have to strike hard. Like we said, I think his unit comp was a little bit off. He could have had those Colves out earlier. They ended up being dead res.
Yeah.
Because he was never able to use them. But the ideals were all there. He just wasn't able to coordinate, and Moses kept his army together. He raided. He kind of pulled them apart. And he was able to get ultimately the unit comp that just was the superior composition. So well played to Moses and well played to Danny, but in particular, again, Moses had a plan and his win condition was seen through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was a little bit of a, he was kind of stretched. I think, obviously you, like you were saying, you have to poke your head out. You're kind of forced. Maybe even these forward coin mines would have been safer just if you had enough pressure on the base there. I also think that, yeah, I think that huge pull to the side was a I mean, you wouldn't know it at the time, but it was a micro misplay. Moses took full advantage of that by sending his mass forward to wipe his skirms. That was massive, but also, I like you said, dead res in the Culve, and some Falconets would have done wonders for this. But yeah, and that's not to say Moses has played an entirely perfect game, and obviously not in this series. You can tell that Danny had won the first one into Moses, so Moses was definitely on the back foot and needed to win this one to make sure the game was going to go to a full 3 series. So congrats to both of these guys, honestly, for playing their heart out and really showcasing their best play. I think I like you said, I can't really see, besides these little things that kind of end up deciding a game, that is so even, truly. I think these, it's really the small things that end up being exposed and other players take full advantage of it.
Yep, I think that's exactly it. Again, both these players, they played pretty well. I think they showcased too that even though like mechanically there was a little bit, things for us to quote unquote nitpick. At the end of the day, I think you had two people, they had a plan, they were able to use their civ strengths, and it just came down to, a battle of wills, and that is to me the most exciting Age of Empires, right? When it's not just a one-sided smash back and forth, but when you have two people that have some experience with the civ, maybe even experimenting with the civ. Again, the flamethrower is not a very common build that you would see in a 1v1. But he was able to utilize them, and in the end, it's what won him the game. So uh, I hope Moses and Danny both, good luck to them both in the next round. I think they're both players with some potential, and we'll see how far they get.
Absolutely. Just taking a look over these post game charts. And with that, thank you so much for tuning into this wonderful, wonderful game in our 1v1 tournament on the Sunbros Discord. Please go ahead and subscribe to the Age of Bison YouTube channel if you feel so inclined. Leave a like and a comment. Let us know what you think of this video as we continue to march through this 1v1 tournament. Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you in the next one.